Hello and welcome to Mum's Work and Chaos. We all know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, but where is that village? Well, I started this podcast to help you find yours, and I'm joined by some amazing guests this season, talking about subjects such as fast fashion, menopause, sex education and teenage behaviour, just to name a few. So join me this season and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Mum's Work and Chaos with me, Louise. Today I am joined by the wonderful Hayley from Little Ones at Home and Vicki from Primary Steps. Hi ladies, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, great, thank you. So
I'm a bit hot, to be honest.
I know, finally some hot weather, but it's really humid as well today. I'm just like
I don't want to moan though, because when it was raining it was terrible. So
absolutely, let's make the most of it.
That's the thing though, isn't it? Like, I mean, come on, we're British. It's our job to moan about the weather. It's like our national pastime, that and drinking tea.
I still drink tea when it's hot and people find that weird, but
no, I do too. My mum used to say, oh, it cools you down, and I'm like,
yeah, I think my mum used to say that as well. I don't know.
I feel like this is like a leftover of like,
yeah, I must drink tea because it's hot.
Yeah, it's so weird, isn't it? But I still do as well. I drink tea
water
a lot. Oh, fantastic. Well, ladies, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit more about yourselves and your businesses. Hayley, would you like to start?
Me first, great. I'm Hayley and I run Little Ones at Home, which is a potty training support. I'm not very good at saying that. I support parents with potty training. So to some children have a few challenges with potty training, and I'd just like to get them back on track in a positive way. So, and sometimes with parents, it's just a little bit of confidence that they need to get started, or if they hit a challenge that they just need a little bit of someone to just give them a bit of a nudge to know where to go next, basically. So
yeah, I know
I'm not very good at saying who I am, but
oh no, honestly, perfect summation. And right. The first time I came across you, you were mentioned by someone I've had on the podcast before as well, and that was Leanne.
Yeah.
So you've worked with Leanne as well. She's
health visitor. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, the realistic health visitor. So if you should. Anyone who's listening, you should follow her as well, because she's got amazing hints and tips. And now that we're in the summer holidays and everything, I will be sharing her reel on holiday first aid kits again.
Oh, I've seen that. Oh, good.
Yeah, no, I'll share it to my stories, but I also will be using it for packing my own, because it's been quite a while since we've been on an abroad holiday and I don't want to forget anything. So,
where are you going?
We are off to Turkey for 10 days.
Lovely.
And it's the first time we've been away since my 8-year-old daughter was 2.5. The last time we went on a broad holiday.
Wow, it's a long time.
Oh, yeah, now we've got 2 more children as well. So I'm sort of like,
there's a lot of expectation in that holiday.
There's a lot of expectation from me and my husband that we're going to have a really nice, relaxing time. And then we don't have any support at all. And we've got 2 more children, and going through the airport with 1 on our own was hard enough.
Yeah, you might want to take some deep breaths and lower the expectation.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where I need to start, lowering the expectations, definitely.
Yeah, and then pack your first aid kit.
Okay. Oh, Vicki, tell us more about Primary Steps.
So hello. So at Primary Steps, we make courses for teachers, so all kinds of educational practitioners who work in schools, really. And they're all courses that are made by current practitioners themselves. So I am an assistant head and I'm an early years leader and I'm a nursery teacher, still in a school. And I also run Primary Steps because I think it's really important that teachers or teaching assistants or support staff have access to really practical courses that can support them. So it's about supporting their knowledge and understanding, but also saving them time and energy, because we are all so overstretched that, so often we're given courses or training to do by people who aren't perhaps in the classroom.
Yeah.
And it's not always realistic. So it's about trying to find those, create those courses that are realistic for people. And so some of the courses I create myself, and some of the courses I find wonderful people who are practitioners, who are experts in their area. And that is how Hayley and I work together. So, Hayley is an absolute expert in toilet training, though she won't say it herself in her own promotion. So that Hayley has made a course for primary steps that is for early years teams, really, about how they can work together to support toilet training if they have children joining their settings that need that extra help and support. But the reason I know Hayley prior to that is as a parent myself, and that's why I know she's an absolute expert, because as a parent, I had some real issues in terms of toilet training my daughter, despite my years of working in early years. I found supporting my own daughter with it was really, really challenging. So my husband and I actually worked with Hayley, or Hayley worked with us, to support us with that journey with our daughter, and she was incredible. And after many months of struggling, in 3 days, she was using the potty confidently, no accidents. And that was just 3 days of working with Hayley. So that's how we know each other originally. And then, I saw what an asset she would be to support practitioners, because when we train, we're not taught how to support children with toileting. So that's why I asked Hayley to create that course to give practitioners that help and support, and about it's very much about everyone being on the same page as well.
Yeah, working together. Basically, that's what it's called. It's called
toileting together.
Toileting together, a team approach. Yeah. But it is about getting parents and practitioners working together for the common good of the child. Basically, that's what it's all about.
I think that's the thing, though. Like we've had our own struggles. We've got 3 children, as I said. We've got an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old who's starting school in September, and then we've got our 2.5-year-old. And like I keep saying she's 2.5. She's actually 3 in November, which is apparently 2.5 months away. So that's crept up on me. So both my elder children are born in April, and they're literally like 1 day apart. So 4 years and 1 day apart, which is insane. And so having a November baby like throws me off kilter, because I'm then like, oh, hang on.
Oh, you were born.
Yeah, this is weird. Things don't fit you at the wrong time. We grow out clothes differently. How weird. So yeah, there's 19 months between the younger two, and 4 years between the first two, which is crazy. But yeah, so with my eldest, she went to a really large nursery setting, and we struggled a bit with her. She first started showing signs that she was interested at about 18 months. We tried and failed. We just didn't have the sort of like cohesiveness with her childcare setting to sort of like make the adjustments that were needed to follow through. And then we tried again when she was 2.5, and we cracked it in the end. But it meant me having to say, I sat down with them and I was like, what is it that you do so we can replicate this at home? Because otherwise it's not going to marry up and work.
But actually, it's not really what can we do that you do, or what can they do that you do. It's more, what does your child need?
Yeah.
Because every child is so different with potty training. Like each child has their own, it could be like a child needs privacy, or a child's like got sensory seeking, or a child is shy, or they're like, so it is, I know it sounds really strange, but potty training is in their personality, how you do it. You have to like click into their personality to give them what they need. And so your job as a parent is really like gathering all that information, and then you can relay it to them so that they know what to look for. And that's key, because without that, you're both sort of doing your own thing, and then it can take much longer. It doesn't mean that it'll be a fail. there's no such thing
Yeah,
as a fail,
no.
but like it just can drag on, and then it just makes it much more stressful. So
yeah, all three of them have been different. So like the middle one and the youngest one go to a different nursery setting to my eldest. They're in a much smaller setting. All the children of all ages are all together, and they all, you know, it's a very sort of much more Montessori sort of focus as well.
Yeah,
they're really promoting that independence as well, which is
a lot in the it's definitely a lot in the personality, and how, you know, us as parents or practitioners tapping into each child as a unique person is key to it. It sounds really complicated, but it's not.
It's just about knowing your child, isn't it, really? And their personality
and sharing that information, you know. Like at the beginning it's just about like noticing cues, you know, non-verbal cues at the beginning. Just little things can make it easier, you know, so that you can spot when they need to go about asking them all the time and things like that. So
that's the thing. Like my eldest, once she cracked it, and she was dry at night as well. My middle one cracked it when she was about 2.5 as well, but she wasn't really showing any signs, and nursery were like, you know, she's happy as she is, let's keep going as we are, and then when we get to, and we'll just keep an eye on her. And then we both had a chat, and we both agreed that we were starting to see the signs that she was really interested in going to the toilet, and you know, it was all on.
So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is that not waiting for children to be ready, and that's controversial. I'm not saying to people take off a nappy without them being ready, but you don't just have to sit there waiting around. There's loads of things that you can be doing to teach them what toileting looks like for when they are like ready to take the nappy off. But what I would say is don't just wait for that time they're ready. You know, like do lots of different things, like reading books, or have a potty hanging around, you know, having little sits on the potty, or having like naked time. Lots of children don't like being naked because they find the nappy so comforting and like something they've always known. They don't like to be without it. Making that all very natural and normal is the very first step, and you don't have to wait. You can do that from as soon as they're walking. You can do all of that. So
that's crazy. I hadn't even thought about it like
that. And then with that, then you can definitely see, oh yeah, they're ready. We don't have to like, oh, are they ready? It's like, oh no, I can see they're ready. And then you can, like, you know, have the nappy off for longer, and then one day go for it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, no, that's amazing. What
I'm trying to do is like spread the word that we're not waiting for children to be ready, and that is one of the reasons why the children are getting older, is the waiting. But there's so much more we can do as parents, as practitioners, way before they're ready. You know, we can just have it as like a normal thing. You know, if you work in a nursery and there's lots of them that are around the same age, it's just about sitting them on the potty, it becoming very normal, so they're not anxious about the potty earlier on, so you're not sort of waiting, and then they become more aware of themselves, and then they start to think, oh, what's this new, you know, like that.
I think that's where we differed with our youngest as well. She wants to do everything that her older sister wants to do, and so when Indy was potty training at 2.5, Hannah was 1. And so she was sitting on the toilet, and she was practicing and stuff, and then
it's normal.
She really cracked it when she was 2, and then she was nappy free by 2. And she was the youngest one to get nappy free as quickly as possible. But both of them still wet themselves in the nighttime, and both still have nappies at night. Whereas my eldest, as soon as she was clean during the day, she was clean at night. 2.5. No night.
That is an individual child again, because it's down to development and hormones, and
I was going to say, I keep hearing about hormones and
hormones.
Hormones.
So it definitely isn't anything to worry about. But when they do get to 5, you need to start at least trialing some time without a nappy at night, just to see where they are and whether it's just become something that they just do because this is just the way it is. Or
they've got a toilet in their bedroom, I'm pretty sure, and it's on a sensor light as well. The light's on a sensor, so they can literally just walk in. They don't need to pull a string or anything, and I'm pretty sure that they're just lazy.
Well, I don't think it's lazy. I just think it's like, it's unless it's happening, and then unless the nappy's gone, there's no reason to be changing. There's no reason. But lots of children, again, like you say, your oldest, they can just wake up one day and they're just completely dry, and it isn't like that I did it right that time and I did it wrong that time. It's just an individual thing.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So,
well, Hayley, you also contributed to the Mums Work in Chaos tips for starting primary school guide as well, with your potty training tips that we included in there. And so as you've probably gathered, dear listener, this episode is all about potty training and the transition between like nursery or home setting and starting school as well. And so like I've got a few questions that I wanted to ask you guys around the subject of toilet training, whether that child is already toilet trained, but one thing that I found out very soon when my eldest started primary school was that accidents happen. She had to get used to the idea of taking herself to the toilet, even though the toilet was actually in the classroom. They had 2 toilets in their reception classroom. She had to get used to the idea of just taking herself off to the toilet when she needed it. And also they had a policy in her classroom where they didn't actually have to ask permission to go. Whereas she'd gone from a nursery setting where she had to always let one of her key workers know that she was going to the toilet. And so it became like this thing, like, I know that she had some trouble waiting because she was trying to get her teacher's attention to let them know that she was going to the toilet. Yet the ratios are very different moving from nursery to primary school with how many children are under the care of an adult. And so a teacher's not going to be able to sit there and say to every child, yes, Luke, you can go to the toilet now. Yes, Helen, you can go to the toilet.
I think this classroom that she's in, the school, being able to just go to the toilet is brilliant.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I don't know, Vicky, do you agree with me? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly common in reception classrooms.
Point of view,
it's fairly common in reception classrooms to have the toilet nearby or attached, but it's not all the time. It's because we've got so many schools that are in old buildings where they've got to go down a long corridor and an adult needs to keep an eye on them. So it's great if they've got the toilet in the class, but like you were saying, Louise, the ratios are very different, particularly come reception. Actually, the statutory ratio is 1 teacher to 30 children. So that teacher cannot be, doesn't have the ability to be constantly looking and checking and seeing the signs that actually someone's doing a little wiggle and then actually just reminding to go. Obviously if they see it, they will, but you're not going to be looking out for that in the 30 children because you're trying to actually teach as well.
So quite often those got to do with teaching a curriculum to a class full of children.
As Hayley and I will talk about in a bit, I'm sure. Part of our job in teaching in early years can be to do with toileting. However, there are loads of other things we are teaching. So if you're in the middle of a phonics group, you might not have noticed that child over there doing their little wiggle. They by that point you are obviously expecting them to think for themselves. And what we often find is when they do start school, some of the toys are very exciting and they don't quite want to leave them. So it's not uncommon to see more accidents than will have happened in a previous setting, and that can be quite unsettling for parents at first.
I think as well though that any transition can cause accidents. So you've named all the other things that's up against them. Plus the fact that it's new and they don't know where they are and it's all very scary. So I think absolutely as a parent, be prepared for accidents, but also as practitioners, making sure that we're being consistent in our approach to accidents is probably the key thing to what we're trying to say.
I still include a pair of knickers in her PE kit just
always,
because she also has ADHD and can get very easily into like a hyper focus of like, you know, especially during like a wet play or something, you know, colouring in is like a huge thing for her. It's like a huge mindful task, you know, she's just there, she's in it. And so even for like a wet play session, it's always useful to have a pair just in case she doesn't make
it. To be fair, I carry around spare clothes for my nearly 6-year-old. I just do it because it's just you just never know, like even as an adult you just never know.
You know what really helped me was in the changing bag, and I've done this for all 3 of my children. In the changing bag I've always had spare clothes, pajamas, nappies, because I never knew where we'd end up. We could be at grandparents' houses and
prepared
things,
for everything,
and then you're there until the end of the day and you want to take them home in their pajamas, but it was always me that got stain down their shirt, and I never had a change of clothes.
Yeah, it's so true.
To these children, and it's me that's getting the grubby mitts all over me.
but that is the key. If your child's starting school, they need to be prepared, because you don't want them to feel like, oh, now I don't know what to do because I haven't got my own knickers and I haven't got my own you know, and school will be very good, like most schools are really good at providing stuff, but you know, from that moment, your child is probably thinking, oh, I don't feel myself, I'm not myself. So if you can just pop a spare pair in the book bag for you know, especially the first term, I would say.
100%. So
even if they've been perfect at potty training, even if they can like go themselves and they're independent, I would just always make sure that they feel prepared.
So we've spoken about some of the challenges that children can face when transitioning from home to school, or from childcare setting to school, like new toys, new people, new sounds, new environment, and so on. But one of the things I wanted to talk about as well was encouraging independence, because my middle one, she still announces that she's going to the toilet and then goes. You know, she's just letting everyone know, I'm going to the toilet, and then she goes, you know. That way we know where she is. My little one is quite happy to just take herself off, go to the toilet, and then reappear again. And she does everything. Like, you know, it's crazy how much she can do independently. Thank God she's at the nursery setting she's at, and they encourage independence. But equally, like sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, she's just gone to the loo, she's washed her hands, she's done the whole lot all on her own. And she's just a very independent person. She won't let us know that she's going to the toilet. She just goes off and does it. So, but then how do we get to that point where we're encouraging that independence to go off and use this new toilet in a strange new environment? Because that can be daunting as well, like getting used to going down the long corridor to get to the toilet and going in on your own and navigating the heavy doors and all of that sort of stuff too. How do we encourage that independence?
So I suppose the key thing is encouraging it at home for a start off. So taking a little bit of a step back if you are very much part of it, making sure that it is accessible, you know, like making sure that they are able to reach the door, you know, reach the door handles, be able to use steps, whatever they need. To go off and do those things, and always promoting it. The other thing is making sure that they have had access before they start school to go to like public toilets. Not every child is like comfortable with public toilets, so make sure that you're giving them time to desensitize to different types of toilets, so it's not just a new thing.
I mean, that's so important, isn't it? Like I don't really think about it, you know. We go and eat in restaurants, and I'm quite a take the kids out sort of mum. I find it easier in some aspects to parent away from home because otherwise, you know, we all get a bit of cabin fever sometimes. And
it's strange because we are as well, but my oldest, she really struggled with public toilets. She still does now. She's not great at them. She has to hold her nose and shut her eyes and all sorts of things. But but at the beginning, I remember we had to use ear defenders just so because the noise of the scariness of the hand dryer was too much for her. So there's like all little things that you can do, but then gradually you take these things away so that they are able to go independently. But it's good to like make sure that they have some experience, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say with these things. So
yeah, my eldest, she didn't like weirdly, I say weirdly, it's probably not a weird thing at all. Most people might find this as well, but she didn't like you know the baby changing rooms or the disabled toilets with the changing thing. She didn't like the big toilet in the disabled toilet because it is bigger and
it is big. I actually say when you're potty training, like the first bits, you should really avoid like public toilets, and then you introduce them gradually. Like you take your travel potty into a public toilet, and then you sort of like you progress. Like everything is like a step, because it's so scary to go from like a little potty to then suddenly shoved on a toilet that stinks and
it was also like,
funny noises and
the giant waste pipe as well from the toilet. She didn't like it. She'd go, oh, I don't like that pipe. And I was like, what's wrong with you? It's a pipe. But you know, I do get it. They do look scary. And then my middle one had problems with hand dryers and also the baby changing tables because we were in lockdown when she was born. And so we didn't really start going out until she was about 1. And so the first time I put her on one of those changing tables to change her bum, it like dropped and she was like, oh, she'd hold on like this. She'd held on to the top of the
They're terrible. I prefer to just change anywhere but a changing table in a public.
I know. I actually bought myself a huge changing mat and I just changed her on the floor because it was
just outside.
I know you were talking about, you know, the toilets at school, and I was just thinking to myself, you might find some schools might send home a picture of the toilets before. I would send home a picture of the toilets. So if they have, check through your emails. If you've got a child starting in September, you may find that you've got some photos as part of a transition pack that you can show the child, just so they can just visualize where they're going to go. Hayley, sorry if you covered this while I was.
No, I didn't know. I was talking about public toilets.
and the other thing is if you do get to go into the classroom, sometimes they might let you in on the first day, or if you've done a transition day, just go with your child to the toilets just so that they have visited and they do know where they are.
That is
exactly what we did. We had 2 transition days. We had one where the parents stayed with them for the hour that they were there, and one where the parents didn't stay with them for the hour. And me and my friend Anna, we made sure that both of our children went to the toilet while we were there.
Really good, yeah.
And then the second time they went on their own, we said to them, make sure you use the toilet because we won't be there this time, so make sure you go to the toilet. And they both did, and they both tried the toilet out and everything. So that was really great to know that they were confident enough to go in and do it on their own. And I actually asked the teacher as they were leaving, I was like, did they go to the toilet? She was like, yeah, they did. Thinking it was a bit of a weird question, but I just wanted to make sure that she felt
they're familiar
in that environment. Exactly, because it is weird and it is strange to take yourself off to the toilet in this weird classroom, and especially considering like the toilet is like the 2 toilet doors, they don't face into the classroom, but they face into the door that goes, you know, into the classroom. And so it does feel a little bit exposed in a way because you're still in the classroom but you're going to the toilet, and then by the time they go into year 1, the toilets are the ones down the long corridor, and so even then when they start year 1, we had a couple of accidents as well, because then they had to get used to putting their hand up, asking, and then walking the corridor as well. So
actually putting your hand up to ask to go to the toilet, some children find very, very difficult. So they would prefer not to go than ask to go. So Vicki, you can agree or disagree.
Toilet passes.
Yeah, toilet passes, or like recognizing some children just can't do that. They just can't do that, and so they might need a little bit more help.
Yeah, there's sometimes I feel like they become more aware earlier on, in a way, don't they, about feeling embarrassed as well. And I think, you know, by the time we hit year 1, we can start feeling that sort of like embarrassment about having to ask to do those things as well.
So where children have found it really difficult, we have found, you know, you have to get agreement with the teacher, and, you know, it depends on the needs of the child and the school and everything. But for some children, I have found a laminated toilet pass, just a piece of paper with a picture of a toilet or a sign that just says toilet, that they just keep in their pocket and they can just show the teacher, has worked quite well for some children.
It does work, yeah.
Who are not going to, you know, feel confident enough to verbalise what they need. So, yeah, that can be helpful for some.
So, you know, we've all seen the headlines of, you know, there's children starting school who don't know how to use the toilet and so on as well. And I think it's a shame that, you know, these publications feel that they need to put this level of shame on parents who, you know, haven't conquered potty training with their children yet. And it, you know, it's not a failure, like you were saying, Hayley. Like, you know, we're all at different stages when it comes
there's lots of factors that are affecting it. It's not down to one person or one type of person or anything like that. There's lots of different factors that contribute to it, which I've done a post on Instagram, talk about it whenever I can. But it's about it doesn't really matter about the factors that are affecting it if your child's just about to start school, because you're there and you feel so much pressure and you might feel a bit of shame, and then you don't. And then basically what I've always said is potty training never is easy if you've got pressure, because you put that pressure on the child and then they won't do what they need to do. So it's just about trying to take a step back and working with whoever that you can work with, whether it be the teachers, the nursery, you know, me, but anybody that will help, you know, health visitors, anybody that will help you move your child forward in a way that works for them, basically. So there are, you know, it's not just about some people just haven't done it. There are factors that, you know, prevent children from doing it, such as constipation is a huge thing. Like, it can delay potty training so much because it's complicated. It's just not an easy thing to deal with. So and that then they get to school and then it looks like they're just having accidents all the time, but it's not as simple as they haven't been potty trained. So
yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? But then, like, you know, are there any like tips that you'd give any parents now who are worried about their child starting school in September if they
haven't potty trained, if they haven't started at all, you know, or they perhaps have done something and then they become unconfident because it didn't go well or they just got into a muddle, is I would just say just do a little preparation, you know, like read some stories I know it sounds silly, but over the summer read some stories, have nappy free time, get them sitting, you know, some children don't like to sit on the potty at all, that's too scary for them, so just desensitizing them to the potty or the toilet, those sort of things can really help ready if they've not done it at all, and then if you can, you know, take the nappy off to give it a trial before school. But I would definitely be just working with the teachers, and just in the course that me and Vicki did, it's about letting the teachers know the whole story, because it's always not just as simple as I haven't bothered. It's just never that simple. So
yeah, absolutely. So I would agree with Hayley. Don't get yourself in a massive tangle. If your child's starting school in September and they're not there, don't go into panic mode, because that's what's going to backfire possibly. It's what, as Hayley said, about taking those steps forward to help towards it. And if your child isn't there come September, it's not going to be the end of the world. The school will work with you. It's not that they're not going to be able to go to school. As I've had lots of parents in the past contact me and say, is my child going to be able to start school because they're not toilet trained? They will be able to start school, but you are going to have conversations with the school and let them know, like Hayley said, as much detail as you can about where they have got to on that journey, and how you and work together on what your child's going to need next.
Are you going to move them on to the next stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're looking to move them forward.
The next stage may not be like fully potty trained. It may not be that for every child, but it could just be the next stage that is comfortable for the parent and the child as well. Lots of parents don't potty train because they're adamant their child isn't ready. So it could just be a conversation about looking for the right signs of readiness and what that might look like, and then how to practice or prepare for that.
I think that's the thing though, isn't it? Is like, we like you were saying, Vicky, don't panic, because the minute we start to panic about something, we can then instill some shame around that as well, which can reverse, even take away the good we've already done with potty training, but then get over our own feelings of shame around the fact that our child isn't potty trained, and open those lines of communication with the school and be able to converse with the teacher and the school about that as well.
A key thing is that your child is now going to be at school for 5 days a week, so you're going to have to work together. There's no way around it.
Absolutely. And I think you'll come, as it comes nearer and nearer to September and your child's starting, if you're still not there with the toileting, the best thing to do is to give the school an email, just before they open. Perhaps they've usually got a couple of inset days at the beginning. You might have a home visit perhaps, or you might have a meeting with the teacher, but perhaps it's a good chance to give them a heads up and say, can we just have a call? Because I think it's often better not to talk about these things in front of the child as well. Have the conversation separately with the teacher if possible. There might be times where you do want to meet with your child and the teacher and you together, so that they can see that you are all on the same page, and that can be important for your child as well to see that. But I think when you're having those very initial conversations and talking about the history of your child and their particular needs, sometimes that is better without the child being present. So just giving them a heads up on the home visit and saying, can we have a call separately to discuss this? Or quite often when I've done home visits, my teaching assistant will perhaps take the child off to go and play somewhere else while I have the more in-depth conversations with the parent, because just so you can say things that you don't necessarily want them to remember or to hear.
Really weird, like when we started, when my eldest was starting reception again, we were in lockdown, and so although we'd managed to get her back into nursery by the July, she could have started in the June, but we had health complications within the family that meant that we didn't want her being exposed to COVID just in case, and so we didn't start her back until the July, and she hated being at nursery. She absolutely hated it, but one of the benefits in a way was that instead of having a home visit, we had a phone consultation, and she wasn't there, and it meant that we could talk quite frankly, and we were able to communicate our concerns as well about her speech and language, that she's now receiving speech and language therapy for, and our observations around concentration and other things as well that we'd noted, that then led us on to getting a diagnosis for ADHD as well. And so it was good to be able to have that frank conversation, but my middle one, we're going to have like a proper home visit, and it's really weird. I'm thinking, like, what are they going to think of my house? Is it going to be what if it's a mess? What if the cupboard door's hanging off by that point? What do I do to sort of...
I tell you what happens on every home visit. We're not worried about that, but what we find is the children do one of two things. They either go completely silent and just don't engage when we're there, and we're trying desperately with different toys to get them to engage, or they do the opposite, and they are all over the place and really overexcited. And the amount of parents I have that go, "Oh, I'm sorry, they're not usually like this," and we say it's always one or the other. So We're all used to it. Home visits are fabulous if you can have one. So I love doing them, and it does build up a really good bond. But like you said, Louise, it does sometimes mean that it is more difficult to have those conversations if you're, you're all in one room. So if you can and you want to have those conversations, perhaps see if the teaching assistant or someone will, go and get your child to show some toys somewhere else in the house. Go and show the toys in the garden for a minute, if they're willing to, and then you can have those other conversations.
Amazing. So, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to, any other advice that you'd like to give, or anything else you'd like to say to parents of children starting school in September?
I'd just say the main thing is don't panic if your child is potty trained. Just be trying to give them more independence. So practice bum wiping, make sure that they can wash their hands. Like you say, they can take themselves off to the toilet. Some children like you to pull up their clothes, like make sure that you're promoting that they now do that themselves. And if they're not potty trained, do a little bit of preparation, but don't panic and speak to your teacher.
Yeah. And what I'd add to that is if they leave drips on the seat, teaching them to wipe up their drips and making sure it's nice for the next person is really, really important. Because I see the toilets throughout the day. And no wonder children don't want to go, So they have to learn to take responsibility for that, and know what to do if they do find a toilet that is in a bit of a state as well.
That's asking for help.
So going to ask for help if that is, or just at least going to find another cubicle helping out with that. And then the other thing is, if your child isn't fully toilet trained by September, like I've said, don't panic and everything. But what you do need to know is the school will have or should have an intimate care policy. So what they will do in that case, if your child does need some intimate care, and so each schools will be similar but different to each other. So they will have that, and they are likely to, if your child is going to need that extra level of support with that, they may make an intimate care plan for your child, which will include the information about who will be changing them and what that procedure will look like. And that is really useful. So when having the conversation with the teacher, if your child is going to need a significant amount of support with that, it's saying, can we make an intimate care plan together for my child? Or they may have a different format, but it will be similar. If you ask for that, then they'll know what you mean.
And I think at that point with the teacher, that's when you definitely got to be saying where you've come from, what journey they're on, and little things that you know about your child that will help.
Definitely. Amazing. Well, if you are a practitioner and you're looking to learn more about helping the children starting school with toilet training and so on, then definitely check out the course that Vicki and Hayley have put together. And then if you're a parent looking for tips around toilet training or preparing your children for using the toilet when they start school, please do check out the guide over on the Mums Working Chaos website. It's also linked in the bio on my Instagram as well, and you can download it there. But thank you so much for joining me today, ladies. It was a really fantastic chat. I really enjoyed it, and it really informative as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Where can my listeners find you if they want to learn more about you? Instagrams, websites, so on.
Shall I go first? So for Primary Steps, we've got primarysteps.co.uk is the website, and you can find me on Instagram. It's primary.steps. I'm also on TikTok and Facebook, but you just have to put in Primary Steps, and I think you'd find me there as well. But I'm predominantly on Instagram, really.
Yes.
And I have littlenonesathome.com, the website, and then I'm at Little Ones at Home on Instagram. So.
Amazing. So I will be, if you're interested in downloading well, going off and finding the course that these wonderful women have put together, the link is down in the bottom of the show notes, and you can also head over to mumsworkandchaos.com, head over to the resources section, and you'll find a whole host of resources from Hayley and Vicki, as well as everyone else who's appeared on the podcast before you. So amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been fabulous to have you. And I look forward to speaking to you guys soon.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Mum's Work and Chaos, please make sure to subscribe on whatever podcasting channel you're listening on at the moment. Or if you'd like to get involved, feel free to email me at mumsworkandchaos@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at mumsworkandchaos. See you then.